Blwyddyn newydd dda, Happy New Year to you all. Welcome to Wrexham Property TV, the January edition. And let's see what's coming up in January's episode of Wrexham Property TV. Now, this is the time of year, of course, we all have New Year's resolutions and new plans for the future. Now, not everybody will be looking to possibly purchase a new home or a new property. Some people will be looking to improve the property they're in already. And I thought it'd be well worthwhile to look at what you could do to improve your home and at the same time add real value to your property. When anybody is viewing your property, the first impressions are incredibly important. So much so, I would say to you, if a viewing starts on a positive note, that the front garden is neat and tidy, that there's a front door that looks recently painted or new, adds to the positivity of the viewing. Getting your house looking attractive and having curb appeal is possibly the least expensive way in which you can add value to your property. So there's lots of properties within the town that have got a cellar, and converting a cellar is an increasingly popular way by which people increase the floor space, the living space within the property. It comes under permitted development rights. It's slightly different in conservation areas. You might want to consult with a local authority there, but in most instances it's completely permitted and planning applications are not required. Another popular work project that homeowners undertake is when they convert their garage. I would say before you consider doing that, it's important for the homeowner to consider the location of the home. A garage in a town centre environment is regarded as particularly valuable because of space restrictions and parking restrictions. If your property's in a rural location, then I would say space there tends to not to be a problem, and therefore, again, I would certainly consider what value you hope to get from a conversion, a garage conversion. A very popular home improvement project is a loft conversion, of which there are two types. You can have a roof light conversion and a mansard conversion. A roof light conversion is where you actually build into the existing loft space. With regard to the mansard conversion, what you're doing there is extending on both sides, or certainly on one side, possibly both sides of the roof space, so that you're ensuring that the height level is increased in the loft space, and thereby making a far more practical room of it. Now, inevitably, this kind of conversion is more expensive. You definitely will need planning permission, and also it would be very, very important in my view. I'd certainly recommend it to you that you get building regulations as well. Another very popular project was a new kitchen. Undoubtedly, it will make your property far more marketable. It rarely adds to the value. In fact, most research would suggest whatever value you've invested in the kitchen, you'll do well to get the same added value to any property sale you would get subsequently. What's really popular with buyers at the moment is a kitchen space that is big enough where you can prepare food, you can dine, and you can entertain all in the same space. So possibly the second most popular is installing a new bathroom. But yet again, it doesn't actually offer you a significant increase in the value of your home. Nevertheless, I go back to what I said about a new fitted kitchen. In terms of putting your stamp on the property, I can fully understand it, and it's a worthwhile exercise to give you some personal satisfaction. The percentage increases have all been researched, but they are an average and will differ between the ranges that I've suggested depending on location, and particularly whether you live in a urban conurbation or whether you've got a rural property. But nevertheless, I hope you found them useful.
I think if you go to the start of 2021, we were all rejoicing when off the back of the vaccine programme being rolled out. I think if we look even further back than that into 2019 and the start of the pandemic, I think the economy proved that it was really resilient. I think a lot of that was to do with people became accidental savers. They were suddenly locked up, unable to go anywhere. I think that the support that the government actually offered over that period was exceptional to people that were unable to go to work. But what it actually meant, they weren't able to go on holiday, they weren't able to go to restaurants and spend money where they were used to spending spare cash. So like I said, people became accidental savers. If we look at inflation, yesterday was announced at 5.1%. Which is the highest it's been for actually 10 years. I expected property prices to kind of start to peter out or at least level off. It really doesn't appear to be the case. The only reservation I may have on that statement is if the Bank of England start to look at raising interest rates to try and combat inflation. I think the Bank of England have resisted it because they're desperate for the economy to get back going, and raising interest rates will mean that those businesses that have suffered and have had to borrow in that period will then only have to pay more back from a borrowing perspective. So they've got to balance that. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 0.5% jump, so from a 0.25 to maybe 0.75. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw at the end of the year as hitting a 1% or even fraction higher than that. But remember, interest rates are still historically low, so it's very, very cheap to borrow money. If you look at an average mortgage of about 150,000 over a 25-year period, it's not unusual to be paying around about a 2% interest rate at this moment in time. The payments on that will be close to around £540 a month. Let's say it went at 1%. You'd be then paying closer to £620 a month. So it's an increase of about £80 a month, give or take. But that's not the only thing that you have to consider. If we look at the cost of energy that's risen significantly over the last couple of months, these are all the things that people have to factor in when they're looking at moving to a bigger house. I do still expect to see strong growth in the US economy, especially given that most of the big tech companies are based in the US today. But I could be wrong. You know, we don't always get these things right, of course. I think the UK market has been resilient to COVID. I still think that the fallout from Brexit hasn't been felt. But if you look at the things to really be mindful of, and when we produce a portfolio for any client, is diversification. Not having all your eggs in one basket. We use property as a good diversification tool so people can have a good spread across various different assets to achieve the best growth and spread the risk.
Thanks very much to James Parry from Hadlow Edwards. That's a projection for 2022. Now I'd like to throw back to last year, and I'd like to show you some of my favourite interviews that we undertook in Wrexham. What caught my eye with this business is the fact that I'm not aware of anybody who's got quite a business like this.
First and foremost, I'm a trainer cleaner. That's my basic role, but it's just progressed into recolouring, full custom work, so they can have any sort of music, band, football club, any sort of lettering, personalisation, daughter's name, son's name, anything like that along that way. And then also obviously I'm introducing a full range of bespoke trainers. That's encourage people to come out and shop and pick up little bits and pieces that they might not be able to get online. The reason I've set this store up in the first place is because I remember being a teenage boy, going to Whitley Sports, going to Stuart Mason Sports, being able to pick trainers off a shelf. And these days you can't really do that. Everything's online, and there's no emotion to it.
Visually, you succeeded.
Yeah, it's all about colours, isn't it? As well, I think. And if they really do think.
I love the one up there that caught my eye, where you've even got a Patagonia trainer.
Yeah.
This iconic brand within Wrexham is something that I think is indistinguishable between the town and the people of Wrexham. This is a brand that was hugely successful, fell on hard times, and over the last 10 years has started its comeback journey and is now being successful once again.
Well, I'll give you a brief. It was started off in the late 1800s by German immigrants. Lager at those days was not popular, and the business originally failed. It was then taken over by a fellow called Gresser, who introduced mechanical refrigeration.
And this was all in Wrexham
This
itself?
is all in Wrexham, all on the old brewery site. Gresser went on a trip abroad on a ship. The ship hit a storm, all the ale on board turned, but Wrexham Lager, which he'd taken his own supply of, was perfect. From there on it went on to cruise liners, etc, etc. It was on the Titanic, and it was on the Cunard line all the way up until 1980s, I believe.
Joanna Swash, CEO of Moneypenny, for a conversation today about Moneypenny. And I suppose my first question was going to be, tell me about how Moneypenny came about.
Well, first of all, thanks for sitting outside with us. So we're pretending not to be cold, aren't we? So we've got about 22,000 clients, both here and in the US. I'll tell you a bit about the US shortly. About 800 people here in 100,000 square feet in Wrexham. And we look after telephone calls and live chats for all these different clients who trust us with their brand. And so we take that really, really seriously. That means then that we have to hire amazing people, and we can keep growing and we can keep scaling, both from this office in Wrexham, and we also bought another business out in the States in February, where we've got another 250 people there as well. So
this is a Wrexham-based company.
Yep.
That in 20 years has gone from a local company to a national company and now to an international company.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Vaughan Schofield from Belvoir. I'm in Tynty Pawb today, and I'm delighted to say that one of my local heroes, a man who founded Wrexham Town Matters and a kindred spirit of mine, has agreed to have a conversation with me today about how he managed to actually get a Facebook site to promote the positive and fantastic stories that are around Wrexham. So, Nigel Lewis, thank you very much for coming here.
Very welcome. Thank you for asking me, Vaughan. My passion is towns, and seeing how towns have declined over the past decade due to the internet, the out-of-town developments, the supermarkets. There's nothing wrong with that. They all create jobs, they pay taxes, pay VAT, they contribute to society, but that's left a big vacuum in traditional town centres, I think, and Wrexham typifies that, and that's how I came to set the group up.
On this month's area guide, we will be concentrating on the lovely picture box village of Bangarondi, a beautiful village in lovely countryside and a favoured residential area for many, many years. Well, I'm in the village of Bangarondi doing our first real area guides. This very pretty village on the Welsh border and on the River Dee is a real magnet for visitors. I always would recommend that people come through to the village over the 5-arched bridge, which is famous, built in 1660 by Inigo Jones, although the village itself is even much older. And in fact, the church, the present church of St Dynawd, is believed to be built back in the 1300s. But of course today we know Bangarondi as a village of some 1,200 people. Now the village has got 2 pubs. It's got the Royal Oak, which is to my right hand side over here, and it's also got the Buck House Hotel. Hot off the press, the news is that Buck House is going to be attracting investment in 2022, and it's going to be turned into a gastro pub, which in a village like this I'm sure will be a massive attraction. Looking at last year, the majority of sales in Bangarondi were in fact detached houses. The average price being spent on a detached house last year being £340,000. A semi-detached at an average price of £159,000, and a terrace property an average price of £121,000. The overall average house price was £244,000, and overall, based on sold prices in Bangarondi in 2021, there was a whopping 23% increase on 2020. When I was doing my bit of research about Bangarondi, there were 2 facts, call them statistics if you like, that really caught my eye. One was that in Bangarondi there's a higher percentage of bungalows as a total mix of housing stock, more than any other village in the county of Wrexham. And according to the census of 2011, with an average age of 51 years, it kind of builds you a picture that this is a very attractive place that people who are either partially retired or permanently retired actually want to come and live. I take you back to the 25th of February 1859, and that is the first date of a recorded race at this particular racecourse. Bangarondi Racecourse is a left-handed jump racecourse that attracts thousands of people every year. And in 2022, there are 14 meetings already planned here, always COVID dependent. And that's the beautiful village of Bangarondi. Beautiful. If you've never actually been here before, then I guess seeing is believing. Take it away. So that was the village of Bangarondi. Now, if there are any geographical areas or subject matters relating to property that you would like us to cover on Wrexham Property TV, I would encourage you to get in touch with us. So that's it for the month of January on Wrexham Property TV. I hope you found our features this month entertaining, insightful and informative. I look forward to seeing you next month.